we work very hard to try to get people to sponsor the kids in these programs. We work hard on, we go out and tag and we ask for money and things of that nature, but sometimes that's just not enough. We see a lot of kids go without participating in the sports program because their family just does not have the money. And we do the best that we can to accommodate, but we can't accommodate all. This village has a lot of children that want to participate but just can't. So can you give me and everybody else here your background on fundraising and grants and how you will be able to assist us in all of the sports programs and how we'll be able to utilize your skill set in grant writing and how we'll be able to get funding for some of our programs.
Thank you, Bridget. So I've worked in the nonprofit sector and still very much involved in the nonprofit sector, and I do understand the challenges of writing grants, identifying grants, sending the applications, and how much time that takes. What I could say up front is, even just in our initial conversations, perhaps review of existing grants that you have or have applied to. How can you tweak the applications to make them more tailored to what the grantor is looking for? And then possibly setting you up with grant writers who do this on a regular basis, but tailored maybe to sports programs. That's probably the best strategy. A lot of times when you're doing the program, you don't have enough time to be also writing the 20 grants so that you can hopefully get 1 or 2 that actually come through. And so it helps to have that external person who can focus just on submitting those grant applications by the deadline. And then obviously making sure that there's a percentage that allows you to cover your admin costs, so that can be covered and you can pour more resources into actually supporting equipment and other needs for those kids. But I would say initially it's our conversation to assess what your current grant making or grant writing landscape looks like. How can we tweak that? And then how do we set you up with an external person who, and I have these resources because I still am very much connected in the nonprofit sector, but how they can actually be on board to help you consistently write grants that you can be able to re-up year after year.
So my question or comment is in the arena of education. So there seems to be board members of the school board that paint the kids from University Park as the reason that the high school or the schools are having these issues, kind of as if we're the black sheep. And I have a problem with that. I'm in the process of finalizing, constructing a nonprofit organization so that we can show up to the board meetings and begin to take a stand for our children. And it's called Our Kids Count. The dynamics of the school district in the suburbs is very similar to Chicago at this time, okay? I've been a pioneer for Chicago Public Schools Office of Social Emotional Learning and setting up interventions and multi-tier systems of supports. And as you know, with Senate Bill 100, you have to provide these supports. These supports are not being provided to our young men and our young ladies in the school district, so it's not fair to say that these kids are bad kids and label our kids as the kids from University Park are the ones that's causing trouble. So I'm going to put pressure on the school district to begin to provide the supports and interventions for the children to ensure that the schools are trauma informed, to ensure that the teachers understand how to work with this type of population. So I'm going to ask for your support, your mentorship, and anything that you can help provide as I begin this mission to fight for our kids and fight for equity in the school building, because right now there's not equity. It's a serious issue going on to the point where they're putting pressure on the administration to begin to press charges when our young men fight, which means they'll leave high school with records. But there's not been interventions or supports provided for the kids to provide a safe place for them to begin to heal their traumas and speak and have these type of conversations. It's just not fair to our youth, so I just want to ask for your support and any expertise that you can provide as I begin to put pressure on the school district to provide these interventions and services for our students.
Thank you. I'm guessing this will be the last question in the interest of time.
But I want to tell Mr. Franklin, if I may, this time, it was, I don't know if you knew that one of our residents has been the president, Dr. Hall, for years. She's no longer the president, but she still is on the board. It's a big change on the board. And I ask people all the time as I go to the board meetings, please, University Park, that's where the majority of your taxes are going. Please go to the school board meetings because there's a big change, there's a lot of things going on, and we need to be in it. And I'm really happy that you participated in that. Thank you so much.
And I would definitely like to follow up with you on that. There are federal laws that actually govern how SEL, MTSS, IDEA, especially for students who are receiving IEPs, that we found in the city of Chicago are not being adhered to. So I'm actually working on a lot of advocacy, legal, policy work within Chicago Public Schools, specifically on that issue. Part of it is we're seeing patterns of inequity in terms of which schools are getting their budgets cut. So the black and brown schools, the schools that serve black and brown kids are getting more percentage of their budgets cut than schools that serve predominantly white kids. And that's just one example of the deep inequities that we're seeing, and I'm guessing Chicago will do the same out here. So to the extent that we can talk about that offline and maybe develop some strategies for advocacy on that arena, I would definitely like to help.
Coach, I haven't seen you since brought my Mavericks over and y'all gave us a good butt kicking. But I did mention the first night I was sworn in, the issue that you mentioned in reference to the kids. I do see the same where kids get into trouble, and it just seems like our University Park kids are being suspended left and right and arrested. I mentioned it already, I guess it received a little criticism because the word was that we don't have the money. But I wanted our police department where a school resource officer would be able to work out of the high school and the middle school and still be able to work as a full-time youth officer for our town. I still think it's possible. That's what I did. That's how my reputation came about. And what the school district did was reimburse the city of Harvey. Pretty much what they did is they actually paid $100,000 to both of our salaries. I think my partner and I were already topped out at $45,000 a year, and they paid $100,000 towards the salary. And then if we worked the football games or so forth, which was a plus, that came out of another budget. And the best part about that is that the officer is right there at the school. And it was very easy, and actually, it kind of reminds me of an incident that happened when 2004, the Wildcats were playing at the United Center in a tournament. And just so happened we were playing, I can't remember, was it Marshall, one of the schools from Chicago, but it was a big fight. It was a big difference seeing two officers from Harvey walk up in the parking lot E of the United Center and point a finger at that bus, and all the Thornton kids ran on the bus because they knew who it was. The interaction was clearly there. Our kids did not do anything. What it was two schools from Chicago fighting. That next day, the big difference, and this is why I feel it's important, that some people don't take it serious when I say we need a youth officer involved with our community. That next day, City of Chicago, there were 1,000 reports accusing kids of doing something from Thornton High School. And Detective Brooks, oh, it's not happening. I went straight to the principal's office and said, no, our kids behaved, our deans were there. At the time, my wife, she was there. Nothing happened. But just that presence of somebody representing the city of Harvey as a youth officer, it cut Chicago right out that deal. And what I love is that we have the board and administration that when something like that happens, and I mean, take it from somebody who have experienced that school who really cares less, because my daughter, Kayla, a child put nail glue in her eyelids. The school could care, I mean, they call to make sure that, you know, is she okay? Because they're worried about a lawsuit. But after that, they don't care. And that's the stuff that has to end. And so the reality, the best part I love about this is that this is something that we campaigned on. This is something I believe that the board, now that I somewhat explained it, I don't care what we have to do, but our kids, and you know like I know, that football, even though I coach in Monique, even when we came to University Park, if you know, just like they still the same kids. It's just one program may be $10, $12 off or whatever the case may be, but they all still, the Bulldogs, we all still in the same family. They're still UP kids. And at the end of the day, when the football equipment come off and you and I can't save them from that mentorship, they need that one person in uniform to really have their back. Because it's really to that point. And I'm just glad that the community, I was able to elaborate a little bit. And the Manor Village manager, now you kind of have my insight why I'm such an advocate for that. And that's my signal for time.
Real quick, I just wanted to see what is your take on two of the other problems we're faced with, aside from finance, is the food desert and no programs for our youth as far as our park and rec. It's kind of in that area, and the pool is closed again, which I know that's probably a financial issue, but there's never anything innovative, nothing to really offer our youth. So that's why so much vandalism and problems and things going on, because we don't have any programs. So I feel like that needs to be revamped, revitalized, whatever your take is. I know you work in the Austin area, and I saw where you have maintained over 150 organizations and networks and brought a lot of things, and I'm hoping that you can bring that to our community. And real quick to Brooks, I just want to say the chief paid for 3 nights. Those bright lights was on Pin Oak Lane. And me and Mr. Taylor, we were ecstatic. We were scared at first because this big bright light came through my living room. I'm watching TV, and I'm like, what the heck? And I looked, and it was the bright light. And this was for 3 nights in a row. I even called Chief to let him know how much I appreciate it. And thank God there was no shooting, no noise. So, yes, he's telling them to do it, and they're doing it. Thank you.
South sector. Yeah. Don't forget the South sector.
Over the course of the next several months, what we'll be doing is we'll be rolling out essentially what that plan looks like for every department and for the village as a whole. What it means is that each department will be evaluated based on current performance, current issues, and then from there we have to devise our strategy moving forward. But we'll be very intentional about identifying what our goals are, what are expected deliverables, what are the metrics to evaluate how departments are doing, how the village as a whole is doing. So that process, just to manage expectations, will take preliminary review first across 14 departments in the village. But at every step, I do want to make very clear that we will be sharing that information and sharing both the findings, the challenges, as well as the opportunities with you. So it is very important that you continue to attend the board meetings, and you've been at the 2 that I've been at, so I don't think I can even say that. But for part of the goal also is to encourage more residents to become active. And coming to the board meetings, they will be learning about what this transformation process looks like. I will be making it a point to share that information. Perhaps in a couple of weeks, we'll have an abbreviated version of at least a scope of work that you can read and provide feedback on. But the goal is to make it a very transparent process, is to engage the residents, because we are all invested in our success.
Thank you. And I heard you on the radio this morning. I didn't hear you on the radio station here. Okay. All right, you have time. Thank you. Okay, at this time, thank you all for participating, and look forward to that on every board meeting. You guys going? I'll ask for that we go into executive session. Moved by Trustee Wilson, second. I'm sorry, personnel. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mayor, but before you move, or motions have been made, but to go into executive session, the item listed on the agenda is for review of preliminary work plan overview, drafted by the village manager. Is this to incorporate a work plan into an employment agreement? if that's the case, we need to clarify that, to allow that to come within one of the exemptions to be able to go into closed session for the employment and performance of employees. So if that could be clarified, that is what will take place.
Thank you all for coming out tonight, and we look forward to seeing you again. Okay. Who's second? Second by Trustee Ferguson, all in second. All in favor? Aye. All right, ayes have it.